Welcome to Debate Combats, where two teams clash over whether social media platforms should be legally required to label and watermark AI-generated content to reduce disinformation risks. Tonight's arena is cyberspace. The clock is the next few years, and the stakes are public trust, election integrity, and everyday safety online. On one side stands Team Emotion, arguing in favor of mandatory labels, driven by the imperative to prevent harm and keep people safe from fakes. Opposing them is Team Logic, challenging the mandate and pressing for evidence, feasibility, and freedom concerns. We will begin with the affirmative case, delivered by a lead advocate and a supporting partner. Team Emotion, the floor is yours for your opening case.
Let us start with a simple truth. When people cannot tell what is real, trust breaks, and that break harms families, schools, and democracy.
Across platforms, labeled AI content would act like a seatbelt, a small friction that saves lives when crashes happen.
Consider deepfake voice scams that mimic a loved one asking for money. A clear label could trigger instant doubt and stop the loss.
Think of election season. A watermark or content credential is a visible guardrail that warns voters to slow down and check sources.
We already label allergens in food and side effects in medicine, so labeling synthetic media is the same spirit of basic care.
Without a legal flaw, bad actors play platform hopscotch, and the safer sites lose users to the most reckless ones.
A common rule would align platforms, making the label predictable, simple, and easy to teach in classrooms and newsrooms.
C2PA-style content credentials can travel with files, giving investigators a trail and giving users a quick signal at first glance.
Even if labels are not perfect, they raise the cost of lying, and that price cut will slow the spread of viral fakes.
Mandatory does not mean heavy-handed. It can be narrow and targeted to images, audio, and video that were machine-generated.
Creators who use AI responsibly benefit too, because a clean label protects their reputation when trolls shout fake at everything.
The law can phase in, start with large platforms and high-risk moments like elections and public emergencies, then review outcomes.
If we do nothing, panic fills the gap, and people stop believing real evidence, which is the very oxygen of a free society.
A clear, consistent, and visible label is a small ask for a large gain: safety for users and credibility for platforms.
For these reasons, we affirm the motion and urge a legal requirement for labeling and watermarking AI-generated content.
Thank you, Team Emotion. And now we invite the negative case from Team Logic.
Strong feelings about harm are valid, yet laws must work in practice, and a universal label will fail where it matters most.
Bad actors will simply strip metadata, remux files, or route through offshore platforms beyond our jurisdiction.
A mandate risks a false sense of safety, encouraging people to trust the absence of a label, when the most dangerous fakes will never carry one.
Meanwhile, compliant creators and small firms absorb costs, engineering burden, and legal risk, widening the gap with tech giants.
Interoperability is unsolved, because not all formats, apps, and devices preserve watermarks reliably under compression or edits.
Even robust signals face adversarial attacks, and at scale, false positives can chill satire, art, and legitimate anonymity.
Speech rules should be technology neutral, but this proposal picks a moving target and freezes it in law, while the target shifts monthly.
A better route is layered governance, voluntary content credentials, platform transparency reports, and strong penalties for fraud and impersonation.
Instead of labeling everything synthetic, focus law on outcomes, such as deceptive election interference, identity theft, and reputational harm.
User education scales better than brittle marks, teaching people to check sources, reverse image search, and slow down before sharing.
If a label becomes a badge of shame, creators will hide legitimate AI use, pushing innovation into shadows and confusing audiences further.
Time and resources are finite, so we should invest in detection research, provenance standards through open consortia, and rapid takedown channels.
Narrow, risk-based obligations during declared emergencies might be justified, yet a broad permanent mandate overshoots the problem.
For these reasons, we reject the motion, not to deny harm but to choose solutions that are resilient, proportionate, and free.
Affirmative team, please take the handoff and proceed with your targeted attack.
When a 12-year-old hears a cloned voice of their mother begging for help, A visible AI label could be the single second that stops terror from turning into tragedy.
Thank you, and now the floor shifts to the negative for a focused defense.
If labels were a shield, the sharpest swords would still glide around them by stripping or spoofing, so teaching verification habits beats trusting a fragile sticker.
Negative. Keep the mic and transition into your counterattack.
Mandates freeze one technique, while the threat mutates, so rather than locking in a watermark, invest in adaptive detection and criminal penalties that follow outcomes, not tools.
Back to the affirmative for a direct defense.
Even seatbelts do not stop every crash, yet we still require them because the average harm drops, and clear labels will drop the average harm of fakes.
Negative team, your turn again, and please move to a two-speaker attack with leader and support.
First, the proposal overpromises, because the most damaging disinformation is intentionally unlabeled, offshore, and rapidly re-encoded to kill signals.
Second, compliance costs land hardest on small creators and startups, who must implement provenance pipelines while black hat forums share one-click label strippers.
Third, satire, remix culture, and anonymous dissent risk collateral damage if overbroad filters flag legitimate speech by mistake.
Fourth, enforcement invites jurisdictional chaos, with conflicts between states and nations, and no realistic path to universal detection.
Thank you. Negative. Time. And I now hand it back to the affirmative for a two-speaker attack.
We can target the highest risk categories, like synthetic audio that mimics humans and political videos near elections, creating a narrow rule where the damage is greatest.
And we can tie this to open standards for content credentials so labels are portable, auditable, and visible to users, even after basic edits.
Platforms already mark paid ads, so marking machine-made media is a natural extension of the duty of care.
Regular audits and sunset reviews can trim excess, while fines push platforms to build intuitive warnings that ordinary people actually notice.
I appreciate the momentum, and I will now shift the stage to the negative for a two-speaker defense, with one answering and one pressing a counter-question.
Answering first, a narrow rule sounds tidy, but narrow rules swell over time, because every crisis tempts expansions that chill edgy art and political satire.
Question back to you. If a label becomes the new badge of truth, do you accept responsibility when the worst deepfakes simply avoid it, and people drop their guard when they see nothing?
We should fix incentives, reward provenance voluntarily, and prosecute deception, not label technology itself.
And if you insist on a trigger, why not time-bound obligations only during certified emergencies, instead of a peacetime blanket that misfires?
Affirmative team, please respond with a two-speaker defense, one focused answer and one pointed critique of a weakness you see.
Direct answer. The absence of a label should never be sold as proof of reality, which is why the mandate must pair labels with simple user prompts that say, "No label does not mean real, slow down."
Weakness noted. Your voluntarism trusts the careful few and abandons the many, because without a legal flaw, the race to the bottom rewards platforms that ignore safety to grow clicks.
Judges, I am calling for a mid-match pulse check. Please share which side you lean toward for now, what strength you see there, one shortcoming you see in the other, and a word of encouragement to both.
I lean slightly toward the affirmative, because their harm framing is crisp and human. But they must show clearer metrics, while the negative understates how fast panic spreads without a visible cue, and both teams should push concrete thresholds and timelines.
I tilt to the negative for the moment, since they exposed real cracks in enforceability and art space risks, yet they skate over how labels could help teens in crisis, and both sides should ground claims in practical pilots rather than slogans.
At this stage, one remain undecided, as the affirmative showed duty of care and phase design, and the negative showed jurisdictional reality and cost, and I urge both to cut abstractions and present specific, testable policy packages.
Round 2 begins with an expectation of fresh angles. Negative team, please initiate your next attack.
Here is a new angle. Mandate-driven labels can be weaponized by governments to pressure platforms into marking dissent as synthetic, chilling vulnerable voices under the cover of safety.
Affirmative team, please offer a focused defense.
Safeguards can fix that risk by requiring transparent, public criteria, independent audits, and judicial review before any takedown or forced label on political speech.
Affirmative. Stay with the mic and launch a solo attack.
If your phone can flag a spam call in real time, platforms can flag likely synthetic media in feeds, coupled with a standard label, which makes skipping safety a choice, not an inevitability.
Negative team, your window for a solo defense.
Spam filters are instructive because we still drown in spam despite filters, so education and robust identity proof for sensitive claims do more than a logo that adversaries avoid.
Back to the affirmative for a two-speaker attack, leader and supporter. Keep it tight and concrete.
Leader case, we propose a 3-layer plan. Provenance labels by default, high-risk event triggers for stronger warnings, and fast lanes for reporting and takedown of malicious fakes.
Support detail. Pair this with grants for small creators to implement open-source credential tools so the burden does not crush the little ones.
Compliance scales with platform size, and penalties scale with harm, so incentives match responsibility.
Public dashboards would show label coverage rates, user comprehension tests, and the drop in fake-driven scams over time.
We pivot to the negative for a two-speaker attack, leader and supporter. Bring a new thread.
Leader strike. Provenance systems risk surveillance creep because device-level signing links creators to works, and in hostile places that trail can become a danger list.
Support strike. Open standards do not guarantee open governance, and if a few giants steer the protocol, innovation will bend to corporate comfort rather than public interest.
A safer blueprint targets harmful outcomes and protects anonymity by default, while investing in source skepticism training across schools.
And fund independent research on detection efficacy so we do not mandate stickers that fail silently.
Time. And we now return to the affirmative for a two-speaker defense. One answers, one returns fire with a sharp question.
Answering first, anonymity can be preserved with optional pseudonymous signing and creator side control, while platform side labels focus on the content type, not the person.
Question to you. If a scammer drains a grandparent's savings with a clone voice, what concrete tool do you offer that a simple visible label plus an alert would not supply faster?
Negative team, you get the last defense turn this cycle, two speakers, one answer and one weakness highlight.
Answer. We offer account-level friction for risky claims, identity escrow for sensitive uploads, and strict penalties for impersonation, which create consequences that evaders cannot peel off like a watermark.
Weakness highlight. Your plan presumes universal adoption, but mandates cannot reach anonymous peer-to-peer channels, so the illusion of safety may grow exactly where danger lives.
Affirmative. Brief handoff for a targeted attack before we move to cross-currents.
People change behavior when friction is visible, and a clear AI label is that nudge that pauses the thumb, which turns a mindless share into a mindful check.
Negative. A compact defense, please.
Nudges help in calm moments, but coordinated campaigns strike in storms, and storms blow past small signs, so resilience must not depend on a fragile icon.
Negative retains the floor for a final solo attack this segment.
If we normalize labels on art tools, young creators may fear experimentation, and that future culture loss is a cost you have not counted.
Affirmative. Close this segment with a solo defense.
Labels need not shame, they can simply inform, and that clarity helps good creators stand out while grifters lose easy cover.
We now escalate to a negative two-speaker attack, leader first and supporter second, then I will cut to the affirmative.
Leader point. A legal label regime becomes a compliance treadmill, where features chase forms rather than threats, and the hardest cases slip through.
Support point, instead of stamping everything, define red lines like synthetic voice fraud and deepfake defamation, and hit those with precise liability and fast remedies.
Thank you, negative. I am calling time and passing to the affirmative for a two-speaker attack. Keep the interplay sharp.
Leader push. Labels plus warnings do not solve everything, but they buy time for human judgment, and time is the most precious resource in a feed built for speed.
Support push. Couple that with school modules and creator tooltips that explain what the label means, so users do not misread silence as truth.
We can require clear iconography and consistent placement, so recognition becomes automatic.
and pilot the policy in high-risk windows to measure impact before scaling it broadly.
I am stepping in to cap the affirmative and return the mic to the negative for a two-speaker defense, one answer and one provocative question.
Answer: your pilots will be noisy because attackers adapt midstream, so you may mistake motion for progress while harm quietly migrates.
Question: if labels are so crucial, why are some of the biggest hoaxes in history belief-based rather than format-based, and how will a symbol cut through identity-driven certainty?
Negative. You hold the baton for another two-speaker defense, one concise answer and one weakness in the other side.
Concise answer: change the incentives for platforms that amplify unverified claims by tuning reach to the strength of evidence, not the presence of a label.
Weakness: your plan still has a backfire risk because people may treat the label as an official stamp from government, which polarizes trust further.
Affirmative. A swift single-voice attack, then we approach judge questions later.
Most people do not read fine print, but they do see a simple symbol, and that small cue can shift millions of micro-decisions that decide whether lies flood or fade.
Negative short defense to close the loop here.
Micro-decisions also respond to social proof, and a better lever is slowing the virality of unverified content rather than pinning truth to a mark.
We are nearing another gauge point, but before that, affirmative. One more paired defense. Answer and reverse challenge.
Answer: labels and throttling are complements, not rivals, because the label explains the throttle and builds habits for recognition.
Reverse challenge: if you reject visible signals, what helps the average person at 2 in the morning when fear hits harder than logic?
Thank you, teams. Your energy is high and the audience is locked in. Before we close, are there fresh angles or unsaid points that either side wants to put on the table? We will move into a rapid free exchange, alternating speakers, and I will cut in if we scorch the rules.
People deserve a visible signal when a face or a voice is synthetic, because fear moves faster than fact, and a label slows fear down.
Fear is not a legal standard, and a fragile label cannot carry the weight of due process, jurisdiction, and technical evasion.
Even a brief pause can save a paycheck or a reputation, and a clear symbol creates that pause across feeds.
Pauses do not appear when attackers post on unregulated sites, and your rule cannot reach the channels where harm concentrates.
The rule makes mainstream platforms safer, and that lifts the floor for millions who never visit shady forums.
Moving harm off the big platforms can make it harder to study, track, and counter, so your plan may blindfold defenders.
Labels plus transparency dashboards make study easier, because we can see coverage rates and fix gaps with real data.
Dashboards can show numbers that look good, while the worst content migrates to dark corners, so the metric becomes a mirage.
We can target high-risk windows, like elections and emergencies, and that is where the label does the most good for the most people.
Emergency powers rarely shrink on schedule, and a temporary rule tends to calcify, chilling satire and dissent.
Satire can be exempted with context and appeal paths, while impersonation and fraud face firm lines and visible warnings.
Context engines misjudge humor and dialects every day, so an appeal after the joke is buried is not real relief.
Creators benefit from trust when honest AI use is disclosed, and the label makes honest use legible and credible.
Honest creators already disclose, and mandates punish the honest, while the dishonest simply strip the mark.
Stripping a mark still takes time and skill, and time plus friction is a public safety gain when seconds matter.
Attack kits are one click and free, and the friction you promise exists mostly for the innocent and the small.
Small creators can get grants and open tools to add credentials, and large platforms can shoulder the heavy lift.
Grants do not reach every corner, and new compliance work diverts creative energy into paperwork and legalese.
We already accept labels for ads, allergens, and age ratings in media that can fool the senses warrants the same care.
Those labels are hard to spoof and easy to enforce, while provenance is brittle under edits, compression, and remixes.
Provenance standards keep improving, and we should not wait for perfect armor when a sturdy shield will blunt many blows.
A sturdy shield must not turn into a badge of authority, because people may mistake it for an official truth stamp.
The user prompt can say that a label signals origin, not truth, and that message diffuses false certainty.
prompts are ignored at speed, and feeds are built for speed, so the real fix is slowing virality for unverified claims.
Labels can justify that slowing by giving a transparent reason, which helps legitimacy and user learning.
Legitimacy flows from clear laws against deception, not from icons that evaders ignore and the compliant fear.
Icons help busy people, like a seatbelt chime helps a drowsy driver, and safety nudges work at scale.
A chime works because it controls a car, not a global network, and your analogy hides the limited reach of your remedy.
We offer a layered remedy, not a single fix, and the label is the visible layer that holds the stack together.
Your stack adds complexity that favors incumbents, and complexity is a moat that locks out the next wave of innovators.
Complexity can be tiered by platform size, so small teams face lighter asks and still gain the trust benefit.
Tiering invites loopholes, as large actors root through small shells and enforcement becomes whack-a-mole.
Penalties can attach to beneficial ownership and repeated evasion, and courts already track such patterns.
Courts move slowly while disinformation moves in minutes, so resilience must come from user habits and platform throttles.
Habits form faster when a clear label teaches them every day, and that simple cue is a teacher that never sleeps.
I am stepping in now, and I will draw a line under the free exchange before it melts the stage. Affirmative team, please deliver your closing case with 2 voices, one to sort the facts and one to persuade the judges.
Fact check. We showed real harms like voice scams, election hoaxes, and panic spirals. We proposed a narrow, phased, and auditable mandate focused on synthetic audio, image, and video. We paired labels with prompts that warn users that no label does not mean real. And we tied coverage to open provenance so investigators have trails.
To the judges, this is a duty of care, not a dragnet. It respects art and speech while giving ordinary people a fair chance to spot a trick. It does not promise miracles. It promises fewer casualties, clearer accountability, and a learning curve we can measure. And that is the kind of steady guardrail a healthy internet deserves.
Negative team, the floor is yours for your final case with 2 voices, one to sort the facts and one to address the judges.
Fact check. We showed that labels are easy to strip, hard to standardize, and prone to false comfort. We argued for outcome-based laws against fraud and impersonation, for throttling virality of unverified content, for transparency reports and independent research, and for protections of satire, anonymity, and innovation that a label mandate endangers.
To the judges, choose solutions that work where attackers live. Target crimes, not tools. Invest in education and adaptive detection. And resist a well-meaning symbol that may shift harm, chill creativity, and widen the gap between giants and the rest.
Judges, thank you for your focus. I now ask each of you to share your decision and reasoning while recognizing both teams.
My vote goes to the affirmative because they presented a concrete phased plan that pairs visible cues with user prompts and audits. They kept scope narrow and human-centered, and they convinced me that seconds saved by a label can matter in emergencies, while the negative's valid worries about evasion did not outweigh the public safety gain for mainstream users.
My vote goes to the negative, because they demonstrated the fragility of provenance under adversarial pressure and the risk of expressive chill. They offered sharper tools like outcome-based penalties and virality controls, and they showed how pilots could mislead policy if attackers adapt, while I applaud the affirmative's ethical framing and harm awareness.
My vote goes to the affirmative, because they balanced duty of care with safeguards, acknowledged limits without hedging, and offered governance that can be measured and revised, while the negative's alternative lacked a visible mechanism to help an average user at speed when confusion strikes.
By a vote of 2-1, the winner of tonight's debate is the affirmative team. Congratulations to the winners, and respect to the challengers for a rigorous contest.
Thank you for the decision. We will keep pushing for labels that inform without shaming, and for designs that help people breathe before they believe.
We appreciate the scrutiny, and we will take the call for careful audits and clear prompts into our next draft.
We respect the outcome, and we will keep pressing for outcome-focused laws and better defenses that do not overpromise.
We learned from this clash, and we will refine proposals that guard speech while hitting fraud with real consequences.
To both teams and our judges, thank you for the craft, the candor, and the stamina tonight. To everyone who stayed with us to the end, thank you for your time and curiosity. If you liked this debate, please hit like, subscribe to the channel, and drop your thoughts in the comments. If you want to support our work, use the QR code on the bottom right or the link in the video description to donate. You will also find links in the description to other shows from completely different series. This is Debate Combat signing off. Take care out there, and we hope to see you next time.